Thank you for tuning into the SPL Express as we look ahead to what could be a pivotal weekend in the Singapore Premier League. We have Roshan here back with us to share his much valued opinions. But before we look ahead, let's look at what's transpired over the weekend in the SPL. Geylang International staged an impressive comeback against Hougang United, winning that game 2-1 as they extend their unbeaten run to 6 games. Albirex Niigata, meanwhile, comfortably brushed aside the Young Lions 5-0, while Tanjong Pagar further strengthened their pursuit of a spot in the AFC Cup with a 2-0 win at Balestier. And on Sunday, the big one, Lion City Sailors grabbed a late winner in an incident-filled clash with Tampines Rovers, which we'll discuss a little later on. But first, here's a look at how the table stands ahead of match week 18. Champions LCS restore their 5-point advantage at the top of the table ahead of Albirex Niigata, who do, however, have a game in hand. Tanjong Pagar, meanwhile, put some distance between themselves and 4th place Tampines Rovers. And look at 6th place Geylang International. What a turnaround they've had. Noah Ali's men on 20 points, breathing down the necks of Hougang United and Tampines. And here's why this weekend is so important. The big one, Albirex and LCS lock horns in a top-of-the-table clash on Friday. Saturday sees Tampines host Hougang in 4th versus 5th, and Tanjong Pagar play in-form Geylang International. On Sunday, Balestier and Young Lions face off in a duel between the bottom 2 sides. So there's so much to talk about with all the action that's coming up in the SPL over the weekend. Let's start with that big game on Friday, Roshan. Albirex up against the Sailors. Let's get straight into it. Who do you think is the upper hand going into this one?
Oh, I'm so pumped for this one after what's happened over the weekend coming into this one. Another huge game in the Singapore Premier League, and one that could be so important for the title race as well. But Albirex Niigata, I mean, when you think of them, I think they just have the rhythm and a bit of momentum going for them at the moment. And I think at times it's perhaps maybe easier to be the side that's chasing the team at the top of the standings. Maybe it takes a little bit of the pressure off. You know, you're looking to try and overtake the top side. And I mean, Albirex, they just seem to have been scoring goals over the last couple of matches in the Singapore Premier League. 4 against Balestier, and they scored 5 in action against the Young Lions the last time out. And with Ilhan Fandi in there, you know, getting goals for fun, alongside Korai Tanaka, who's now on 17 goals for the campaign. They have a lot of firepower in that team, in the advanced attacking positions, and they actually look a lot more mobile and look a lot more effective without Tadanari Lee in the side. You know, with Sugita as well contributing with goals and his chance creation. Then you've got Idetsu getting forward from that right back position, creating chance after chance with his set-piece delivery and with his crosses from wider areas, with a number of assists that he's picked up as well. It's looking like a really well-oiled Albirex Niigata machine. And I think even when you go back to that game against Tanjong Pagar, where they ended up losing in the closing stages of that match, they actually looked really good, very smooth with the style of play. And I think they have the tools to cause Lion City Sailors issues and to cause them problems in this game. And now they have the players in those forward positions to kill off chances and to finish off opportunities.
Let's talk about the Lion City Sailors. They come into this one after an incident-filled win against Tampines Rovers. Let's talk about that result and performance first, because it obviously meant that they returned to winning ways after consecutive draws. How does that result set them up for this clash?
Massive result, the huge win against Tampines Rovers, and because of what it means for them going into this game against Albirex. You know, if they had drawn that match or even lost that game, pressure gets piled on. If they had drawn that game, they were looking at 3 consecutive draws going into this game against the Albirex side, who I think are showing good form with their football at the moment. Whereas for the Lion City Sailors, it looks like they're just getting stuck into a little bit of a blip right now. It doesn't quite look like they've got that rhythm going for them. Maybe that last-minute winner will actually give them a bit of a boost. But performance-wise, I don't think it's really been clicking for the Sailors. But having collected 3 points there, it gives them now, takes a bit of pressure off their shoulders in the sense that it gives them a bit of a cushion. Although they will have to be wary of the fact that Albirex do have, bigger picture-wise, have another game in hand over them. So I think it's very important that Lion City Sailors, will go into this, and not saying that they're going to try and close shop from the beginning, but what's important for them is to not lose this one. And we could see them perhaps at times try to play it a little bit clever, try to play a little bit smart, and just make sure that they at the very least come away with the point in this game. But for me, what it looks like at the moment, the way things have gone on over the last couple of weeks in the SPL with the results that we've seen, it looks to me like Albirex perhaps have the slight upper hand in terms of that momentum coming into this game?
Well, the Sailors, and like as mentioned before, Sailors and Tampines, there are a lot of incidents off the field.
Yeah.
And we understand that both Sailors and Tampines have been called up for a disciplinary committee hearing on Thursday, which is a day before that game against Albirex. Well, how do you think that will affect the team?
Yeah, that's going to be another interesting one, because as we're sitting here right now recording this, we don't actually know what's going to happen with the DC and what's going to be the result of that. And of course, there's always a bit of doubt in the minds of the club, in the minds of the players, in the minds of the coaching staff, because let's remember Kim Do-hoon is one of those people who's been called up, who's been charged by the DC. The club as a whole has been charged, along with Tampines Rovers as well. So, there's a bit of concern. There will be a bit of doubt heading into that game. I think as far as they possibly can from the last game against Tampines, they'll try and prepare as per usual as they possibly can, try and forget the events to the best of their abilities. But still, you can't deny that there will be a cloud hanging over the Lion City Sailors going into this game. I mean, we've said all that we needed to say about the incident on Sunday, and everyone who wants to get my opinion on that can go back and watch the footage, because I was quite clear about what I thought about the whole thing. Now it's in the hands of the committee, and they decide what's going to happen going forward. But what I will add to that is, I think the scenes that we saw are also a result of that intense pressure that the Lion City Sailors and Kim Do-hoon are under at the moment. I think he's felt that. I think he was feeling it, because remember, it could have been 3 consecutive draws, lots of points dropped along the way, under pressure from Albirex, needing to go and win the title, because that's the expectation. When you're playing at the Lion City Sailors, you need to be winning titles, and because of all the resources that have been put into the club. So that's the sort of pressure that they're under. And I think we saw a glimpse of that on Sunday against Tampines Rovers. But yeah, looking ahead, going forward with this one, it's going to be interesting to see what kind of impact that those results from the DC will have on Lion City Sailors on Friday's game.
The interesting thing also, a quick one about this, if your coach is getting charged, what kind of effect does that have on the team and the players as well, and the need for them to step up, especially the senior players?
Hugely important. It's vital that, again, we speak about the depth in this Lion City Sailors squad, and we speak about the experience in this squad. It is, and it always will be, and it has been throughout the course of the season, that the players, the experienced ones, as you mentioned, the internationals, have to step up and take on that responsibility as well on the pitch, and have to lift the team. There are very few excuses that I can think of for Lion City Sailors this season, and I think the players themselves will look at it and think, there's a lot of things that are provided for them. They limit really the excuses that players can find. They're treated well, they're paid well. The club is run incredibly professionally. It's such a well-run club. And so the players have got to deliver on the pitch. They've got that platform to show what they're all about. And that's what they got to do. They've got to step up in those situations, in these difficult times, in these difficult scenarios. That's what they've got to do. And during training as well, he'll still be around Kim Do-hoon will still be around to, talk about tactics, impart whatever he wants to onto the team. And then, we'll see what happens on Friday. If someone else has to step in and take over, for example, I'm sure it will all be sort of run smoothly along those lines. And then it's down to the players to perform on the pitch.
Well, Tampines are also part of the DC, and they're in action on Saturday against Hougang. Tampines, we picked up, you said that it was actually a very encouraging performance from them against the Sailors. How does that set them up for this game against Hougang?
I think they should be. I know the result was disappointing for them, and you felt sorry for Tampines, because I think they actually deserve something out of that game. In fact, over their 3 performances against the Lion City Sailors this season, I think they've deserved something from the first game. This is something from the third one, the most recent one. And I think they can take encouragement from the fact that they fought. They showed a lot of desire, in terms of how they closed down, in terms of how they pressed as a team, and how they closed off the spaces. It was really impressive. And we can talk all we want about tactics and how he goes to a back 5 and how he's structured things a certain way and how he's changed a few things here and there with tactical tweaks. But still, it comes down to the basics, in the sense that the players still have got to want to work. And there will have been examples from that. Remember in the first half, when the Lion City Sailors had a few opportunities on the counter-attack, late on in the first half, with the likes of Diego Lopez were breaking forward, and I think Haikal Pasha might have been breaking forward as well. You saw Tampines Rovers players tracking back, chasing back, covering ground, and they had ground to make up as well. Likes of Firdaus getting in behind and helping the side out. Adam Rifty being alert and alive to come across and provide cover for his central defenders. So that's what was encouraging, that spirit going through the squad. And this is a very young team as well. And when you're young, you expect that you need to at least have that intensity and that desire and to run yourself into the ground. And hopefully they'll be able to carry that with them into the game coming up, because they've got a really difficult run of fixtures if they want to try and secure the AFC Cup spot.
Well, they're facing Hougang. Hougang, they have Pedro Bortoluzo, who's in form. Krajcek as well. He's hit a bit of form recently. How have Hougang fared in the last few games, and how will they approach this game against Tampines?
You know, the thing with Hougang is they're a bit of a mystery again to me, because we're starting to see them in the last game anyway, the performance going back to sort of pre-AFC Cup campaign for Hougang, where they were quite disappointing in the first 10, 11 matches of the season. But since they came back from the AFC Cup, you know, they looked okay in the first couple of matches on their return. But maybe some fatigue is affecting this side a little bit, and maybe that's something that they will have to look to try and address. But the mistakes seem to come creeping in again. We saw them against Geylang, and in the second half I thought Hougang were pretty poor, although they did have opportunities to kill the game off. So that finishing was lacking at times. But now, in an attacking sense, they seem to be able to get the best out of Krajcek, who I think is getting involved a lot, and he's coming into a really good run of form. And it helps them that Pedro Bortoluzo is starting to find the back of the net as well. And I think those two players will be important for them in terms of how they approach this game against Tampines Rovers and how they try and look to utilize those two players in the attacking areas.
Let's move on to the next game on Saturday. Tanjong Pagar up against Geylang. Tanjong Pagar spearheaded by Ryo Nishiguchi. And this is the question I have for you is, are they over-reliant on him?
I mean, when you look at some of the goal-scoring numbers in this side, when you look at who's been scoring the goals, it's Ryo Nishiguchi far and away ahead of everyone else. 16 goals for Ryo Nishiguchi, right? But it's not even just the goals, it's the assists that he's creating. Nishiguchi, 16 goals, and then the next closest goal scorer is on 3, and I think that's Shugit. So, yes, they are incredibly reliant on Ryo Nishiguchi and the goals that he does provide. But look, it works for them, and they're a side that are sort of set up to play in that way, and you can't argue against the fact that it's been getting them results. The fact that they are third in the standings, you know, heading into this weekend's action, says a lot about the work that they've been doing. So they try and keep themselves defensively sound. They try and keep themselves compact as they can. They will still allow opportunities for the opposition. It's not the prettiest style of play at times from Tanjong Pagar, but look, they are a side that a lot of us, again, I go back to expectations, a lot of us were expecting them to be in the bottom half of the standings. That they've been in the top half now and that they're performing the way that they are, it's incredible. They deserve a lot of credit for it. You know, I don't care what the style is, it's getting them the results because they're, I think, overcoming some expectations. They're exceeding themselves, I think, and it's a credit to them. And Nishiguchi, I mean, he's going to take some stopping. You might know he's the key player, and you might try and allocate resources defensively to try and shut him out. But look, knowing what the plan is
so
completely different, right?
Yeah.
If everyone can say Nishiguchi, it's like a one-man show to get it into him. But it's obviously not worked for most of these teams with the number of goals that he scored. So it's a system that works for Tanjong Pagar, and they'll be hoping that continues over the next few weeks of the campaign.
Well, once they face a very informed Geylang International, what last few games they've had, 6 games unbeaten. I mean, at the start of the season or midway point, or after the first round, we were saying Geylang are really struggling, and they've seemed to turn that around.
Brilliant.
What's worked so far for Noah?
I mean, just incredible. Not just for Geylang, but for us, the neutrals. You know, it makes it such a more entertaining in terms of the league, because now you've got 4 sides challenging for those AFC Cup spots, and Geylang are one of those. And they've just started taking off. You know, Geylang had 4 wins from their last 5 matches in the SPL, unbeaten in the last 6 in the competition. It's incredible what sort of turned it around, and I think the clues lie in the fact that, and I've said this before, that some of the performances, even in the first half of the campaign, have actually been pretty good. It's just that they haven't been able to sort of get the results that the performances have perhaps deserved. Now we're starting to see those results come into it. You know, the performances, again, they play with their style. You know, they like to try and pass it out from the back at times. They play an entertaining game of football. No Ali really only has 13, 14 players that he can really rely on.
Which is incredible considering
fantastic.
The squad,
it's incredible. And the way he's able to, you know, sort of tweak things tactically, he has to be very clever about this because, you know, obviously he's got to use one under-23 player and then he's got to try and shape players and use them in different positions. We've seen Tajeli play at right wing at times, play at right back. We've seen over the course of the campaign Ahmad Shahir play at left wing at times. We've seen Huzaifa have to play at left back or left midfield. We saw Bezakor come on to great effect in the last game. And he's a player that they are going to need a lot more from, I think,
Do you think he's finding his feet in the SPL?
I think he's starting to. I think he was always sort of a player who was a very willing runner, very, very willing to work up front. I don't sort of have any criticism of his work rate and his intensity. I think what was lacking is the numbers in terms of the assists, in terms of the chances created, and finishing off opportunities in terms of the goals. I think hopefully that performance against Hougang, where he scored a brilliant goal, loved the technique on that strike, and then created the chance for the winner as well. I think hopefully that will give him a bit more of a confidence boost in terms of the numbers that he will look to try and pick up on. But now what you're seeing is that confidence. And this confidence, we talk a lot about it in football, but it makes such a huge difference because now players can play a little bit more naturally. They're not overthinking the first touch. They're not overthinking the passing options. They start to feel like, oh, we're getting into a nice run. We're getting into a rhythm. Things are going our way again. So, it starts to become a lot more natural for Geylang.
Talking about confidence, two teams who desperately need confidence, Balestier and Young Lions. Quickly, the significance of this game and what it means for both sides.
Look, these two sides have struggled for large parts of this campaign, and the significance of this one is Balestier need to win this. They are, in name, on paper, a fully professional side, competing against a side of players who are doing their national service or are still in school and things. And I'm sure Balestier have players in school as well, but it's a game that if you're a professional club, you need to be winning, and I think it needs to show here because people are starting to get frustrated with Balestier. It's just been a really poor season for them overall. I don't think this was what they expected at the start of the campaign. It really is looking like it's not just the performances that aren't there. The morale seems to be very low in the team and in the side, and they're making lots and lots of errors. For the Young Lions, it's always going to be a difficult season. And listen, what can you really say about this one, aside from the fact that I think Balestier have got to go on and try and get the 3 points, but the Young Lions will look at it and think, this is a team just ahead of us. It's an opportunity for us to get the win as well.
Well, lots of football to look forward to, and none bigger than this one. It's going to be Albirex up against Lion City Sailors, which is our match of the week. Coverage begins from 7:15 p.m. live from the Jurong East Stadium. You'll be joining John Dykes and Roshan Rai as they build up to kick off. So it's going to be a very interesting weekend of action in the SPL. Roshan Rai, thanks as always. There's lots to look forward to this weekend, and you can catch the action live on our YouTube channel. Till next week, goodbye.